Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Mpho Tsedu. Does the private sector contribute to the continent's economic development? This question is often posed when debating issues relating to lack of economic development in Africa. For its part, the African Development Bank says this sector is widely recognized as an engine for sustainable and inclusive economic growth. The bank reiterates that the sector generates 70% of Africa's output, 70% of its investments, and 90% of its jobs. It also highlights that the private sector is largely comprised of informal, micro, and small enterprises. This, coupled with its limited capacity to contribute to accelerated development. The Development Bank is hosting a two-day dialogue in Pretoria with a special focus on the private sector. The theme of the gathering is financing private sector development, what works, what does not, and why. We are live, and indeed you can call us and air your views. The numbers to dial is 089-110-4210. Our international number +2789-110-4210. Our Twitter handle at QuestionTime24. Khotsong Gurula Mraro, my guest today, Paul Nomba is the country director at the World Bank Group, and we are also expecting to be joined later by Makhoshile Khete, who is the executive director at the African Development Bank. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you are the country director of the World Bank.
Yes.
And not only are you in charge or overseeing South Africa, but also, 6 other countries?
Yeah, 6 other countries in the neighborhood. Lesotho and Swaziland, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe and Zambia.
So, you are the man who causes all the problems then for South Africa.
Why?
Are you not the one who reports that things are not well and therefore we are downgraded?
Not really.
Okay, what do you do?
What we do is that, first of all, let me step back and say World Bank is a bank owned by South Africa. It's owned by 189 countries. And South Africa is one of the core shareholders. And the reason we are in South Africa is because the government of South Africa is our shareholder. And what do? We provide development solution through finance and through knowledge and convening power. So we're not really imposing anything on anyone. We just do the work that our shareholder want us to do. And we have 2 goals. One is to eradicate poverty worldwide, including in Africa, by 2030. And the second is to what we call shared prosperity, promote shared prosperity. It means we would like to see a wider and deeper middle class.
But if you're saying South Africa is a shareholder of the World Bank, then I'm asking myself a lot of questions. What kind of a shareholder are we? If we're a shareholder, why are we in trouble with these banks?
I think it's the relationship between the World Bank and South Africa, particularly the South African government. The government is excellent. It's an excellent relationship. But you know, when you are in a partnership has a level of equilibrium depending on what the partners want to achieve. Yeah. So the government of South Africa has that advantage of having an economy which is the largest economy on the continent. And the country, South Africa, also benefit from the deeper and the most sophisticated financial sector. As a consequence of these 2, South Africa doesn't need much of the support, financial support, of the World Bank.
No, we do. How can we not need financial support from the World Bank when, there's so much need for, to finance developmental projects, to finance a lot of things. Right now, the South African government is in trouble when it uses some of its funds to bail out state-owned enterprises and all that. Where are you when all this is happening?
When all of this is happening, we are really working very closely with the government on some of the priority that the government wants us to work on. We are not engaged on everything that the government and the economy of South Africa has to deal with. We do provide analytical support in reading the behavior and the development of the economy. And that's the reason why once every 6 months we come out with a report.
Yes.
The last one was released a month ago, what we call the economic update.
Yes.
The 10th edition came out last month.
Okay.
And you were quite kind enough to welcome us here to present it. And I think what we do with that work was to look at the economy of South Africa, look at the different variables of our economy, and see where the government has additional levers in terms of additional action and initiative that the government can do or undertake in order to get a stronger and vibrant growth.
But why is South African government then not able to create jobs out of this economy?
It's complicated. You have two things in South Africa. One is the largest economy on the continent, the most sophisticated economy. And that economy has been designed for a highly skilled supply labor. You have an economy which is sophisticated, driven by the industries that really build around the mining and the financial sector. And that kind of economy needs highly skilled labor. But when you look at the supply of labor coming from the country, is low skilled because of education system challenges. And the two are not matching. What you see in South Africa is that you have a lot of job position remaining unfilled, where you have a huge list of people waiting for jobs.
So the country is not producing the required skills?
Yes.
To service the economy, so
as it is today. So what has to happen is to reconcile both. This economy has also to take into account the fact that part of the labor force is unskilled and should also create what we call labor-intensive activities, not only capital-intensive activities.
Okay.
And this is the reconciliation that has to take place while we are fixing the education system, which obviously will take more time.
So how much do we owe you?
In terms of
how much does South Africa owe the World Bank?
When I look at the portfolio that I have in South Africa, we have a large portfolio in terms of numbers, in terms of rand amount. I think we have the largest project that the World Bank Group has ever approved worldwide was approved in South Africa. It's a project which is meant to help Eskom build the largest power generation facility. We call it Medupi plant.
Yes.
And we are not the only one helping Eskom do that. I think we have like 9 other co-financiers also mobilized around it. This is the largest project. For us, it represents something like $4 billion times 12 or 13, depending on the rand value of the day. You can have the equivalent. So that's one of the largest projects that we have in the portfolio. But more recently also we signed with the government a very promising project which is about promoting agribusiness. And we signed that project with Land Bank, which is going to extend credit to SMEs in the area of agribusiness in South Africa. As I said, this economy needs to create also labor-intensive kind of activities. And some of these activities which are labor-intensive should be coming and will be coming from agriculture. And agriculture, not only on-farm jobs, but processing jobs, or jobs along the value chain in agribusiness value chain.
So you understand our financial strength or economic strength as a country.
Yes.
Do you think we can afford a nuclear project?
I think that's a decision that every country should make by itself. It's not up to the World Bank to come and make an opinion on it. It's a decision that countries make, given the factors surrounding this kind of project, given the policies initiated by government in this area. The World Bank doesn't have any take on that. Yeah.
Would you fund it?
We don't fund nuclear energy as a principle in the World Bank.
Okay. Hold it there. We're taking a quick break. When we return, we talk about the conference. What works? Why is it not working? How can it work? This is Question Time.
The only way to pour the perfect beer, this professional barman would tell you, is into a glass tilted at exactly 45 degrees. Oh, bless you. Bless you, sir. Bless you again. Well, we'd say the perfect way to pour a beer is at this angle, straight into your mouth.
Get 2 6-packs of Castle Light 500ml cans for only $119.99 from Tops at Spar.
Today on Rights and Recourse, we will unpack the new traditional court model.
The idea of the bill is not to overregulate, to basically set the principles.
The most important aspect of this bill is that it understands that customary law by its nature is consensual, that I have a right to affiliate, I have a right therefore to opt in, and I have a right to opt out.
The opt-out provision is basically one that you've got to respect the court in the sense of if you've been summoned, you've got to tell the clerk of the court at least that you're not willing to attend.
The challenge that I would like to throw to the Department of Justice, it has to come up with mechanisms of ensuring that people who exercise their right to opt out or to opt in are not in any way victimized.
#Rights with Dumila Mates on legal issues every Sunday at 2 o'clock Central African Time.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. My guest, Paul Nomba is the country director at the World Bank Group. Now, we are also joined by Makhoshi Lekgete, who's the executive director at the African Development Bank, and Rakesh Nangia, who's the evaluator general at the African Development Bank. Now, the number to dial 089-110-4210, and please do give us a call so that we can hear what is in your mind. Let me welcome you. The African Development Bank, why are you not funding developmental projects on the continent? And may I just focus on SADC? Makhoshi.
Well, we do fund development projects on the African continent. If I just focus on SADC only, a lot of countries are on the bank's books as borrowers. You look at Tanzania, Malawi, Zambia. The bank has a huge portfolio of projects in those countries. For Tanzania only, I can say that the portfolio is in the region of $2 billion. So that is huge. And it really depends on countries.
Zimbabwe?
Zimbabwe, as you know, cannot get funding at the moment from African Development Bank and also from the World Bank. It's been in arrears for a while. And
so yes, they are indebted. You have blacklisted them.
They stopped paying, and you cannot lend money to a country that is not in good terms.
So you are an immoral bank. You don't have morality when you deal with money, because there are needs in Zimbabwe. Why don't you fund them to get out of the problems that they are in and ensure that they have the capacity to pay you back? Because normally what you people in the banks do is you would then send your people into whatever you are interested in to ensure that your interests are safeguarded. Why are you not doing the same?
Indeed, the African Development Bank has not left Zimbabwe. It's still there. And we have been working with other development partners to support development in the country in other ways other than through lending. The African Development Bank facilitates what is called the Friends of Zimbabwe group of donors. These are donors that are, you know, as you say, that say, yes, we recognize their challenges, but we are not going to leave the country because there are poor people that still need support, and we will be there. And we are working through the issues. We haven't left the Zimbabwe, and to try and reach some amicable solution to the debt crisis that they have now.
So who qualifies to get this funding? Do you only fund government departments or governments as such, or do you fund private entities?
Actually, we fund both, private entities as well as governments and so. But before I get into that, let me add to what Makroshi was saying. In the end, we are a bank. So when countries are in default, just like any other good bank, even though we're a development bank, would stop lending further. That said, we're also on the development side. And so in addition to what Makroshi was saying about having the Friends of Zimbabwe and so on, there is a trust fund which is grant money, which is supporting together with other donors, including the World Bank, the Zimbabwean side. To come to your second question, yes, we do go to both governments and private sector. And there is a formula universally recognized, used by the World Bank as well as us and others. It's called the CPIA. Let's not get technical, but it's a formula where we assign or allocate notionally how much of our lending is going to be going to that country. So there is...
so currently, give me numbers, let me work on something. Currently, how much are you funding, for instance, South African entities?
I'm sorry, I wouldn't be able to give you exact numbers, but the one thing that does work out is, yes, there'll be, I mean, for instance, Medupi perhaps is one of the largest projects.
So you're also involved in Medupi?
Yes, very much so.
So why is it not coming to finality? I mean, it's just been procrastinated. They say it will be complete in such a year, it's never done, and all that.
I think, again, it's a combination of a number of factors. No, it's easy to blame everybody for it. There's enough blame to go around.
But you make money out of the delay. Your interest doesn't wait.
Well, we make money only after the disbursement, after we have given out the money, not when we have lent or committed the money. So when the disbursement happens, that's when the clock starts ticking.
Hold it there. Let's go to Midrand. Is it Lungile? Oh, Figile, welcome.
How are you, my brother?
I'm well. Thanks for the call.
Yes. To Paul and the lady.
Yes.
I'm very embarrassed that today in Africa and South Africa, you still work for World Bank. With the capacity of experience that you guys have, you don't even consider starting a black-owned bank in South Africa or Zimbabwe or Tanzania. You keep on working for international banks and you keep on putting black government and black business into debt. When are you going to come up with your capacity and expertise and say to South African government, we have the knowledge and the know-how to start a bank? Because we as Africans will never own the economy for as long as we are funded by the outside world. Why? Have you ever heard of China borrowing money in America? Have you ever heard of China borrowing money in South Africa? Never. Now you look at the minerals issues, for example. We don't own the mines in South Africa. It's owned by foreigners. Everything that we do goes to foreign countries. We don't want them to come to SABC and tell us about World Bank. They must tell us about the bank called AA2, the People's Bank, which is going to finance African people jointly in Zimbabwe, Tanzania, and South Africa. We are sick and tired of working for international banks and companies.
Figile, thank you very much for the call. Indeed. What is African about African Development Bank?
Everything is African about African Development Bank. It's owned by African countries, including South Africa. And just to set the context straight for myself, I actually represent the South African government
in
the bank, on the board of the bank. So I am there to serve the interests of the South African public. as well as the interest of the bank.
But how different are you from Mr. Bank? Because you are an African bank. I'm trying to understand why it is called African Development Bank if nothing in its character, nothing in its principles says African. Because I would expect an institution which is African to understand that, for instance, Lesotho is encircled by South Africa. There is nothing they can do without the involvement of this country. How do you make sure that the senior power which is currently running the economy of Lesotho is phased out and Basotho are able to stand on their own through the help of the African Development Bank?
Well, Lesotho is a borrower to the bank, and it is a member of the African Development Bank. And as Rakesh was saying, we are a bank at the end of the day, and we have to be guided by member countries on what kind of support they require from the bank. We work with governments to say, let's develop a plan that we can both support and where the bank can lend money to you. How we differ from the World Bank, to be specific, is that the World Bank covers all countries. We are focusing on African countries.
So you are the World Bank version in Africa?
If you want to put it that way. Okay. But we only cover...
I'll give you a moment just now. Let me take Yandisa. Yandisa is in Midrand. Welcome.
Yes, Mpo.
Welcome, Puti.
Yes, man. Thanks for taking my call. Just quickly, man. You see, with the previous caller, Figili, I think he is unfair to be playing the man and not the ball. But I'm not going to go into details about that one. I have a question, man, for the gentleman that you had on his own day earlier.
Yes.
Yeah, he says that his bank has an excellent relationship with the South African government.
Yeah.
I think, that's a bit hypocritical, if you know what I'm saying. Because I'm trying to understand: is he trying to project his bank as some kind of a loan shark to a South African government? Because when does his bank ever have a wrong relationship or a negative relationship with the South African government, when we as South Africans see exactly what is happening in our government, if you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
If you can just explain that. He says they've got an excellent relationship. I don't understand how, because we've got a corrupt president, if you know what I'm saying. Thank you.
Thanks.
So.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. But before I respond to that last question, which is important, let me just say for the first question that China, even though China is the second largest economy in the world, China still borrows from the World Bank.
Yes.
And they do it on purpose, not because they are obliged to do it. In fact, China Development Bank is 5 times bigger than the World Bank. But the Chinese government still borrows from the World Bank, because it's not just about money. It's the experience, the knowledge that has been accumulated on development agendas and issues that really is valued by many of our member countries. When it comes to the last question, my relationship here as a World Bank with the government of South Africa are excellent. I still repeat that, because the government of South Africa is a shareholder of the World Bank. And the World Bank cannot come here and do something that the shareholder doesn't want it to be done.
What is your role in these ratings agencies?
We don't have a direct role.
Yeah, but you do talk to them?
They do talk to us, but not on specific matters pertaining to a given country.
What do you tell them?
What we do, we produce reports.
Yeah, fine.
World Development Report is one of them.
What do you tell the rating agencies?
They read our reports and they make their own decision.
Yeah, but you do make recommendations.
Not necessarily on rating agencies' work, no.
Your reflections.
We reflect on the economy.
And you think it's good?
What's the prospect for growth? What are the underpinning factors that can take growth down or take growth up?
What is it that is taking growth down currently?
In South Africa, and everybody knows about it, and the government knows about it, is the policy and political uncertainty.
Caused by?
Caused by policy uncertainty, meaning that if you are an investor, before you invest, you want to make sure that the policy governing your investment area going to be stable and predictable.
Okay, we have run out of time. But is this conference that you're from not just another waste of time and money?
I certainly don't think so, and I would hope not.
Okay.
What we are looking at is what are the lessons that we have learned from around the world over the last decade on how to support private sector development. And as we all know, private sector development is going to be the engine of growth, producing the jobs necessary for Africa over the next decade.
We have run out of time and we're running over. Tandoro is next and may not be happy if I take more of his time. That was question time for today. A big thank you to my guests and to you for watching the show. From me and the entire crew, you have yourself a wonderful time. I have a hot. There we go.